We're joined now by Jeff Bryant. He's the director for the Center for Disease Control's Division of Emergency Services. In your role, I mean, what's something that people are maybe surprised to find out or don't know about a natural disaster that is an immediate need?
In all natural disasters, the first focus of the response community is life-saving. You know, is there somebody that made it through the initial event that we can save? And after that, then it goes into life preserving. If we can restore electricity, if we can get safe food, safe water to a population, you know, that's only going to help the community recover faster.
But what are some of the challenges? I mean, you have people coming from all over the country, sometimes all over the world, to respond to these disasters, and they may not have all the tools that they need or, you know, or want to have the appropriate response. I mean, are there a number of challenges that you guys have?
There are. I mean, there is chaos often in the immediate hours, days, or even maybe weeks if it's a catastrophic event. And so everything from populations that are displaced, that are having to find temporary living arrangements, having families that were separated because the grandparents live in a different home in a different part of the city or the area. And then for the first responder community, you know, understanding where to focus their efforts first. And so if there's a pocket of survivors, you know, it takes a long time to do a house by house grid search for search and rescue. So if we can pinpoint where the survivors are, that could greatly accelerate the response activities.
When it comes to the call for code, there seems like there's a lot of things that we would have solved by technology by now, or that we should solve. Is there a disconnect between maybe people who have the skills, the developers, and what the needs are of our first responders?
Listen, I think that technology is emerging so quickly that, you know, the collaboration between the developers and the practitioners of response and recovery activities is so important. I mean, even on the preparedness side, before an event occurs, you know, is there a way for us to have dynamic mapping or dynamic modeling where we can better predict the severity? Because if we can better anticipate or predict the severity of an event, then we're going to be able to better do resource allocation, you know, to the highly impacted areas or to the priority areas.
If you like had a wish list, like we could do so much if I just had X, Y, or Z, the ability to, you know, look in a camera and see if a tree's down or whatever it may be. I mean, would that be a pretty long wish list?
I think that there is a role for emerging technologies in the preparedness and the response and recovery spaces. And so we have got to be able to harness these technologies and then scale them to where they're mainstream in a community or in a responder group or group of organizations. And so there is a list of technologies that we think could be very helpful and be enablers for the response and recovery communities. You know, dynamic mapping is just one of these areas, and so our ability to, you know, a lot of patrol cars now, law enforcement, have laptops on the console, and the ability to have a dynamic map that takes sensors from around a community, whether it be cameras at a bank or cameras at an intersection or river gauges, and then taking those images and through image classification, translating that into usable information for responders. So for example, if a camera is showing that there are 3 trees down and traffic is backed up, nobody's getting through, then a first responder can alter their route to get to an impacted area. So, you know, one of the barriers that responders have going into immunity could be the language barrier. And so, you know, looking at the science around natural language processing and the ability to voice to text or text to text, you know, if I'm in a community where English may not be the primary language, you know, if I could voice to text and have that come out on the other end in a desired language, that would be a huge enabler for responders. And I know these technologies exist, but how do we make them mainstream?
Thank you so much for all of your insight. We
Sure.
really appreciate it.
Yeah.